as the Diddy trial continues. We'll tackle that a little later. Now, what needs to be tackled now? Very clear. This was a subject I wanted to talk about, but because of Memorial Day weekend, I didn't have the chance to. I have the chance now. So I feel that now is a better time than ever to get this out of the way for good. Now, let's look at a few things. Ryan Clark was responding back to a video that Rg3 did talking about you.Clark. And in this video, Ryan Clark, who went on Twitter and claimed he was making a basketball take when he clearly, his comments did not indicate a basketball take about Angel Reese and you.Clark. Because she jumped up and made a move towards you.Clark, that automatically transforms this to a different case altogether. Right? Wrong. It was a basketball play. Neither one of them harped on it, and they moved on. And let's go to the next game. Here it is. 2 weeks later, after that play, people are still talking about that play. Why, I have no idea. Wasn't that big of a play. So hard take, foul, and that's just it. Shouldn't have been nothing more than a day's worth of attention. Rg3 makes a video with his white wife in the background while he's talking about a black woman, Angel Reese, and making assumptions with no facts based on his own opinions, saying it's facts. With his white wife in the background nodding in approval to everything that he's saying. That image struck black people the wrong way. And he intentionally did that. But it just let me know, it confirms and put a stamp about all I need to know about Rg3. That our perceptions of him was absolutely correct. And Rg3 is exactly the type of person we avoid. You're not going to wake guys like that up. They're where they want to be. But responding to that on the Pivot podcast, as everyone else did amongst themselves, they decided let's pull up and have a discussion. Ryan Clark brings up the fact that Rg3 wouldn't understand these conversations because he's not around black women. He's been married to white women, so he wouldn't have these conversations or understand what it's like, which is not true. You can understand a conversation no matter who your spouse is, especially because his mother's black, raised by a black woman. So, quite sure he knows what it's like. Ryan Clark, in trying to make it moment, decided to make a situation based where it appears to be based on race. But if you listen to his entire diatribe, you will realize it was based on culture, not race. Hopefully you guys can understand the difference between culture and race, right? Steven Spielberg is Jewish, right? Martin Scorsese is Italian. They both white, but from way two different cultures, right? All right then. So this is a conversation about culture. But after this was done, Ryan Clark pointed out that he was alarmed by some comments Rg3 made about milk. Like corny jokes about milk in a racial tone. And he found it as unsettling and not funny. I've seen some of these corny brothers do the same thing. Now, here's the problem with Rg3. His argument, his position, his stance, and the whole nine. He goes ahead, does another podcast, doesn't have his white wife behind him. She's not there. He's sitting there by himself now, giving a new diatribe, changing the argument to something that it never was. He says, did you just attack my white wife? You attacked my wife based on color? It's ESPN, Ryan Clark of ESPN. Are they going to be comfortable with you doing that? So he's trying to go after the man's job, which is something black men don't do to other black men. So this tells you all you needed to know about Rg3. And rather than address the statement on his platform, he turned the argument to what he wanted it to be about, ignored everything that he said, and focused on one part of Ryan Clark's statement, saying that Ryan Clark crossed the line. He didn't cross the line. If anybody crossed the line, it was you. When you said Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark, and it's not about basketball. She hates her. I know real hate when I see it. When you said it's not about basketball, then it's not a sports take anymore. Rg3 or Robert. You see, once you make those words and statements, this is not about you having a white wife, your second white wife. Whatever you choose to be with, that's fine. But that doesn't give you the right to denigrate black women because of it. One, you do not know all black women. A black woman raised you and had you. 3, you don't know Angel Reese. Never met her. Never interviewed her. Nothing. Never went to her games. Nothing. So, how can you make a personal assessment of her when you hadn't even seen her play? You hadn't even talked to her, interviewed her, nothing. If I'm simping, who am I simping for? To be simping, you have to simp for somebody. You decided to attack a black woman to help boost up your podcast. So you're the epitome of what you're talking about. You stand for nothing, Rg3 or Robert. Stand for nothing. And I can tell based off your podcast exactly who you are. And there was a reason ESPN let you go. And we see why. Go work for Fox News. You'll fit in perfect over there. You're not the first black athlete to have a white wife. There's plenty of them out there. And they don't even have to be athletes. Just plenty of them out there. They're everywhere. So you're not doing something no one else has ever done. But to sit there and put your wife in the background who doesn't speak or add anything to the podcast itself, you was trying to send a message. You wanted your wife to be presently sitting there and smiling, not adding anything to the podcast, but to sit there, smirk, smile, and bob her head in approval. to what you were saying in the video, knowing it was giving off that optics. So you could irritate the black people who would see something like that and be offended, because it's going to bring more numbers and attention to yourself. Congratulations, you've done it. You brought a lot of attention to the point that I don't need to watch you ever again. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. Nobody black pretty much should ever watch you. Your content isn't for us. Now, moving right along, we got Ryan Clark, who decided to come in, play the narrative of the sports Martin Luther King, and correct him about culture. Because the statement he was making and what he was trying to make is that culturally it's disrespectful to do something like that, because you have to know something about your black history and roots. And this is just a basketball play, and people are making a political stance out of it to boost whatever they believe. But to see a black man do that was very insulting. Everyone wants to make it a black and white thing because Angel Reese and you.Clark are black and white. So they want to make the big race issue to boost things up and fill all the arenas up based off hate for the other person. Black people are supposed to hate you.Clark. White people are supposed to hate Angel Reese. And you guys are just throwing gas right on it. Instead of bringing the focal point to basketball, which is the game that they're playing, right? Nope. Get that gasoline. Keep dumping it. Keep dumping that gas, right? We're going to keep dumping that gas. Because it's about race. No, it's about culture. Two people can have two different cultures. She used a straight comb. And one, I don't know what kind of comb she used. But it is what it is. They come from two different cultures. No one's asking the other person to like their culture or understand their culture. If you don't get some things that Angel Reese do, you don't get it. you.Clark might put mayonnaise on her fries and stuff like that. Might be a cultural thing where she's from. You don't get it. If you want to talk about Angel Reese as a basketball player, then talk about her game. I just don't understand how you make a 1 hour video about one foul that none of the players are talking about. They played like 2-3 games since then. you.Clark is out 2 weeks now with an injury. So, talk about that. Instead, you know what they want to talk about? Angel Reese. Why do they all want to do this? Why do they all want to go down this lane? Why do they all want to go into perceptions, responsibilities, notes? It makes no sense. It's not bothering anybody. No, but Ryan Clark thought this was a good moment where he can come in and give his Martin Luther King etiquette about sports and culture, and he fumbled and said a line saying that he wouldn't understand because he has a white wife. Forgot the fact that he also has an interracial child with a white woman. His first child was with a white girl he dated. And was trying to create this narrative, Rg3 and Ryan Clark, that you are a hypocrite because you had a white girl. That was never the issue. And it wasn't like he didn't claim his child. So now his children are out there trying to defend Ryan Clark when they really shouldn't have even taken the bait. Ryan should have made this thing explainable. But, like I said before, it's the same thing he did prior. Ryan Clark did this whole activity before. I had no problems with what Robin Clark had said, except for the one line. But he did not express how this thing is about culture. He was trying to say that. But by carefully choosing his words, he just made one mistake. And they picked out that mistake and tried to make that his entire argument or his point he was making. And rather bringing them back to the point, they just doubled down. No, you said this. Typical propaganda trick that the pink folks have been running on black folks for years. It's one of their tactics. See, when Khalid Abdul Muhammad made the statement, 70% of the slaves were owned by Jewish people. They took those words he said and flipped it and said that he said 70% of the Jewish people owned slaves, which is insane. But they put a spin on the narrative to make it sound ridiculous. Just by moving some words around. You misquote. Mm-hmm. Nobody moved the goalposts. They made the goalposts is where Rg3 stated it, and placed it when he said this isn't about basketball. So how could it be a sports take when you said Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark and it's not about basketball? That is a lie. He said Angel Reese was about to punch Caitlin Clark. That was a lie. Everything Ryan Clark said about Rg3 was correct. He just made one line that he shouldn't have said, and they based it off of this. But this is what Ryan Clark gets. I believe this is his karma, because he did the same thing when he sat down with me and Kwame Brown and spent about an hour out of his day to talk to us about the behaviors of Gilbert Arenas at that time. And then he goes into talking with us, saying he would not even sit down with a guy like Gilbert based on his activities, on what he did prior to the situation. Then he goes ahead without warning, puts Gilbert Arenas on his show. And he interjects Kwame Brown. Then tell Gil he won. You won, Gil. And it was like, what? Won what? So that there was the Ryan Clark people told me about after the fact. And I felt bad because I vouched for Ryan Clark. I vouched for this man. I mean, it's his show. He could bring anybody on that he wants. But it was out of his own mouth that he said he didn't want anything to do with Gilbert Arenas. Had nothing to do with us. It was based off the fact of what Gilbert did with Channing. He said had a conversation with Channing and deleted what he said to Channing when he sent the message over to Kwame Brown to make it seem like Channing was talking bad about Kwame. Just for him doing that, Ryan Clark didn't want anything to do with him. So it had nothing to do with us. It had something to do with Channing. So it wasn't like, hey, this had nothing to do with y'all. So I asked him to do that. He volunteered to say that. Then you go and bring Gilbert on your show. And if you just brought him on your show and did whatever, that's fine. But you bring up Kwame Brown's name. You interject that into your show. The reason that I vouch for you, because Kwame Brown could have went on any platform he wanted. All of them wanted Kwame Brown on it. And he just didn't want to go to anybody's platform. He wanted to go to the best. And we was watching Michael Beasley interview. And I said, see, this is one of the best ones they had on there. And the LSU former quarterback that went to the Raiders, they had him on there. And these were the two biggest interviews. And I was like, that's a safe space. This is a good place to go. Ryan Clark ain't gonna do you wrong. And he told him, I don't really want to talk about Gil. I want to talk about everything else I'm doing. I don't even want to focus on Gilbert Arenas. So they had like one question about Gil, and that was that. Because he don't want to boost Gilbert Arenas up, knowing that what that guy is doing behind the scenes. So now, they move forward, right? And in moving forward, they take things to a whole nother level. right? Goes to a whole nother level. He brings Gil on his show and he takes that angle he took. I said, wow. He didn't even reach out to Kwame Brown and saying, hey, I'm going to have Gil on the show. You know, we're going to ask him some questions about you. No reach out, no courtesy, nothing. Then you don't even reach back out to us because you know you got caught with your hand in the cookie jar. So you thought you was too big to speak to me. But you will have to speak to me, Ryan Clark. One way or another, you're going to talk to me. And we're going to have this conversation. Now, all these other people who want to have a problem with you, they don't. They don't. I'm the wrong one to have a problem with, trust me. People know already. I'm the wrong one to have a problem with. Trust me. You were stupid enough to watch that documentary. I watched Gil's documentary on Netflix. It was good. He shot the same thing on the internet 5 years ago. Netflix just want to get paid. Like, let's make a documentary of a documentary that's already been out. Yeah, let's continue that process. And you watch it and be like, wasn't this ass on YouTube? What did I learn new? Nothing. There's nothing new about that event that we don't know. Nothing. The only thing left to do now is for people to lie and add on. So now, no, people and their perspectives and narratives change. As we all do as we get older. KB focuses on, he's not hovering and he ain't walking around going, ooh, when I see Ryan Clark. No. I said, I have something to say to him. And I do. And when I see Ryan Clark, well, I'm going to address him. Better believe that. I don't care where we are, Universal Studios. I'm going to say, I need to speak to you. We're going to step to the side, Shouldn't lead to blows. But if somebody can't use their words and want to go that route, it's unnecessary, but I don't shy away from any of it. But shouldn't come to that from a conversation. It ain't about having dirt on land. We spoke to Ryan. It's on the YouTube channel. You've seen it on Kwame Brown's page, seen it on my page. We both sat down. We both spoke to Ryan Clark. That man sat there and made those assessments and told us we shouldn't even worry about a person like Gil. Just ignore him. He's a clown. He told us this on video. It's on YouTube. Go and watch it. And then you go see his interview with Gilbert Arenas. And you say, what has changed? Not realizing Gilbert just used them to say, look, I got your beloved Ryan Clark. They thinking, oh, wow, we got Gil and all this. Ryan, Gil don't care about them. Gil just was using them to strike back at us. Like, look, y'all did all that with Ryan Clark. I went on the pivot. So, again, he allowed himself to be played for the moment. A moment that he said he would never do. That he would never sit down with Gil. And there he was, sitting down with Gil. I don't have a problem with anything he said towards Rg3. So, as you can see, me and that man have a conversation we need to have. Right? Me and Rg3 don't. There's nothing I need to say to him. Me and Ryan Clark, we need to have a conversation. But that's why I said this is karma coming to bite him in the ass. Because it affected his children. His children are defending themselves and sticking up for their sister and all this stuff on the internet. Now, if you're Ryan Clark, it's not a hidden fact. Even though he's got a black wife, he's got black kids now, his first child was by a white woman. But it was like, what Rg3 was saying is like, you've been hiding a child. Like, you have never put this child out there. She's been around. She's been everywhere with him, really. Everyone just assumed she was just light-skinned. And you never see anything from his first baby mama that he had when he was really young. It wasn't the point, but since they want to make it look like white wife is the point, you're proving Ryan Clark's point. But to go after ESPN and keep trying to imply like you're going to try to get a black man's job taken, that's foul for another black man to do. unless that man is trying to really damage and destroy and play with way beyond, like that junkie was doing. And I'm like, somebody else is going to finance him doing that. That's a whole different thing. You're going to finance this guy to attack me? Okay. Now I got to come after you. And I mean rip you from shred to shreds. Because, see, that's what needs to happen when you start seeing this egregious step from one side to another. When did Kwame Brown ever say, hey, guess what? You know what I want to do? I want to build a powerful platform network. I want to build the podcast network. I want to do this. No, this is what I choose to do. He never said that. Not at all. This thing ain't do anything it was supposed to do. Kwame Brown didn't come here and say that. I was already here doing what I'm doing. But KB didn't come here saying that's what he's finna do. But he's doing quite well for himself. But the problem is, the majority of the people who gravitated to KB are now the same ones hating on him. Because it's no longer benefiting them the way that they want to be benefited. What else would they say? I mean, what else would people say? Well, we'll see you later, Ken James, and we'll see.